This week's channel message from the angels is helping us to better understand the sequence of energies that we are moving through right now, starting with where we are currently, where our focus is right now, and the next energy we're moving into, which they're calling the energy of insolubility. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you who are new, my name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm, and I do that by raising my awareness as high as I can go, a little higher, and I connect. And then energy and or messages and healing comes through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. And this week's message is part of a long series of messages where they're helping us week by week to better understand this great shift in human consciousness that we are all moving through. And it's an incredibly exciting time. They tell us in this message, in the beginning of this message is a little bit harder to hear because they're talking about some of the difficulties, this period of difficulty that we're heading into. They're at the same time, they're also reassuring us, letting us know that we are cared for, that they're giving us this information and helping to help us out of fear so that we can move through these things, understanding where we're headed. And they tell us how to best work with the energies, letting us know that it's an open field, a suggestive field that we can start to create in new ways, which is something they've been telling us about in some of our most recent messages. So it's an awesome message. And it gets richer and deeper as you go. So anyways, I hope you guys love it. So let's go ahead and dig in if you guys are ready. Here is what they say. Presence, divine presence within you. Your hearts are opening, transferring the knowledge of yourselves to all beginnings. We wish to speak to you on the subject of what is next arriving, of where you are finding yourselves in the new beginning. To settle within your hearts the sense of fear that is rising, to let you feel yourselves well cared for, resolved into a new formation and beginning. We speak on a sequential arrival of circumstances that are foreshadowing larger events. A scene before you now is unfolding of harrowing arrivals, a sense of yourselves as becoming more fragile and dependent on an economy that cannot right itself, that seems unraveling. And we say this does now foreshadow further instability in the world. It draws to you now comprehension of the strain the world is under, the struggle to maintain and reforge what is breaking. The circumstances now do not entail a focus on rebuilding where things stand. A new arrival, a new foray for humanity draws you forward. Through this process, there are many who find they are waylaid from the starting of their own desires, built upon suggestions they've held as truths, but which are unfounded. We speak now to the horizons beyond this next unfolding. There will be coming now a time of great insolubility between and among things, a dissolving of circumstantial placements where things have been held in what was thought of as safety. The sign of this now is the great rising of the tide of energy that moves among those in banking. There is the folly of suggesting that there will come more fluidity in the form of economic revival, and we say this will not be happening. There will not be the stability as we have been saying. But what now evolves from this pointed collapse is that hardship is more enduring than was expected, and the tension and pressures on leadership create strain within the world at large. There is hardship within this endowment of grace. There is struggle amongst yourselves to some degree. Know yourselves in an energy of transition, of change. Have no fear, for you will be provided for with what is needed. It will not be the same. It is a momentary shifting that must be endured. There is within this placement of hardship multiple causalities, multiple reasons, all coming together in one inflection point, derivative of a greater lengthening difficulty, which overwhelms the institutions and their ability to recover within this structure and framework. We say, remain pointedly fixated on your own growth. The disturbance and dishevelment of this world is an open field, suggestive. And into this space will be drawn the energies of ascending vibration. the energies of trust, followership of your own guidance, a sense of yourselves as elongating into a perspective of your higher truth. There will be more reflection, less reflexive action. And within this new economy of faith, you are ready to begin your own shifting and unveiling. It is a space and placement which carries hardship, as you know and are aware of, but it holds within it a jewel of composure for yourselves, a sense of yourselves as understanding why and how this new beginning will avail itself. And we hold for you an inner harmony, a blessing to carry you through these new beginnings. We wish you every prospect of hopeful understanding. All right. So, like I said, you'll hear in here a lot of references to chemistry and economics in terms of the language that they're using, which is sometimes they're always about musical terms. This time it's chemistry and economic terms, which is interesting. And they're really, like I said, pointing us to a new energy. It's like we're in this particular phase, and this phase is foreshadowing this next energy. And then they're telling us how to move through this energy. What is in this for us? So let's go ahead and break it down paragraph by paragraph. So they say in the beginning, they say presence, and they've been talking about this divine presence. It's about really trying to say, what is it when we're trying to say to get back to the truth of who we really are, to understand the truth of who we are. It's our divine presence, that your consciousness is like, it's about being present. Where are you putting your consciousness right now? Like, where is your divine presence? And the idea that what is divine about you is that conscious awareness. Like, wherever you're placing your focused attention, that is your divinity. That's where you're creating. That's your divine spark. So that's why they keep, I think, referring to this over and over again, is we're trying to become more aware, more conscious of what we're paying attention to. So they say presence, divine presence within you. So they're trying to speak to this part of us. Your hearts are opening, transferring the knowledge of yourselves to all beginnings. And this I love, because they have been working very hard to try to draw our focus out of the head and into the heart. And by doing that, they're saying that the knowledge of yourselves, right? We're transferring the knowledge of ourselves to all beginnings. So this is referring to the oneness, to the unity. So these, a lot of times in these opening paragraphs, they kind of pack everything in, like recap, this is where we've been. You know what I mean? Like when you watch a TV show and they show you what was said in the last 5 episodes, that's what they do in these first paragraphs. So they're saying your hearts are opening, right? And when they open, it is through that connection, through the heart, that we then share ourselves with everyone, with all things, right? That where we become an open book. And that's what we're trying to work towards. So they say, transferring the knowledge of yourselves to all beginnings. We wish to speak to you on the subject of what is next arriving, of where you are finding yourselves in the new beginning, to settle within your hearts the sense of fear that is rising, to let you feel yourselves well cared for, resolved into a new formation and beginning. So they're really laying out, what is the message going to be about? It's going to be about settling our fear, about telling us what's coming, letting us know in advance, so that we, as things happen, we can say, okay, I recognize that, I see that, and I know that this is all part of a larger plan, that we're headed towards something that is going to be for the benefit of everyone. So that when we see or experience hardship around us, we recognize this is just a moment, we're moving through this, and trusting that we're going to be provided for, we're going to have what we need, and and to see what the blessing is inside of it. So we focus our attention, that conscious awareness, that divine presence, that we're focusing it on the pathway through, that we're focusing on where our growth is. Yeah. So here is what they say going forward. Okay, next paragraph. And they say they want us to feel ourselves well cared for, which I love that. I love that they recognize that we are human. We're having a human experience, that we're kind of down here. It's like being thrown out into the big blue ocean, and we want to feel cared for, right? We don't want to feel like we're here on our own, having to figure it out on our own, that we want to feel like they are with us and they're taking care of us. So that is this message is, hey, we are caring for you, right? We are making sure you know, you understand what's happening, that you have a sense of what where to focus. Next paragraph, we speak on a sequential arrival of circumstances that are foreshadowing larger events. So they're trying to lay out a sequence here of where we are and what's coming next. A scene before you now is unfolding of harrowing arrivals, a sense of yourselves as becoming more fragile and dependent on an economy that cannot right itself. So this is our current situation where we are today, is where everybody's watching the economy. Everyone is expecting the shoe to drop. Like we are right now heading into like a somewhat deflationary, could be very deflationary period. I'm not sure, but with there's like you'll see in the Black Friday sales that there's deep discounts, right? I heard somewhere that like Nike has some phenomenal amount, huge amount of their inventory that did not sell. So the economy was weakening. The consumer sentiment is weakening in a significant way. And so this is harrowing arrivals. A sense of yourselves is becoming more fragile and dependent on an economy that cannot right itself. So this is the fear that's out there. This is the feeling that's out there right now. And they say that seems unraveling. And we say this does now foreshadow further instability in the world. So they're saying, okay, this is not just about the economy, it's the bigger world and the greater, like, all the different aspects that are this foreshadows that, right? That the fear about the economy is one thing, but then what about the political environment? What about the sort of the global events, war that we're seeing that's happening right now? And we say that this does, foreshadow further instability is the key word. It draws to you now comprehension of the strain the world is under, the struggle to maintain and reforge what is breaking. So this is where they're trying to say the sequence that they're laying out. The first stage of the sequence is where we are now, where people are looking out and everybody seems really preoccupied with the economy and what's happening in the economy. And they're saying this is a foreshadowing of greater instability. And we know that there's war going on, but it's like a pocket here, a pocket here. It feels like it's like even now, like nobody is talking about Ukraine right now. Everybody's talking about what's going on, in the Middle East, but nobody's talking about Ukraine. It's like it's a little blip and we're just kind of, oh, that's just the war. It's just going on over there, right? It's not happening here where you are. Hopefully, I am sorry if that is the case, but there's this feeling that like most people, or a lot of conversation right now is talking about the economy. And so they're saying this is a foreshadowing of this greater instability that's coming out in kind of always, right, in everything. So the war energy growing, becoming larger, political upheaval growing, becoming larger, right? The struggle to maintain and reforge what is breaking. So they go on to say in the next paragraph, the circumstances do not entail a focus on the rebuilding where things stand. So in other words, the energies that are available to us on the planet right now, the ways in which we're being supported, we are being supported, but not to rebuild, not to keep things the way they are. That is not the energy that's here. There is a supportive energy, but it's not for that. They're saying a new arrival, a new foray for humanity draws you forward. So this is what the energy is here for. Through this process, there will be many who find they are waylaid from the starting of their own desires, built upon suggestions they've held as truths, but which are unfounded. So this is speaking to the idea that there are many people in the world that are still expecting life to work in a particular way. That it's almost like we have a rule book that we think that if we follow the rule book, this is going to happen. If I go to this college, if I do these things, if I follow, pass this test, whatever it is, then I will get this type of a life, right? If I do X, it equals Y. And they're saying that these are expectations that may be unfounded and unmet. That the world is not going to be working according to the same formula that it's always seemed to have worked. And this is part of this greater unraveling. So they go on to say, so that is this part about suggestions they've held as truths, right? Which are unfounded. So, and people waylaid from these. So there's going to be people who are a lot of people who are trying to stay in the narrow definitions of the way reality has been and trying to make those formulas continue to work for them. And they're saying that more and more those formulas will no longer work. They go on to say, we speak now to the horizons beyond this next unfolding. There will be coming now a time of great insolubility between things and among things. So this is, I think, this is one of the more interesting paragraphs in this whole thing. Because they were saying before, this is where we are before, is this feeling of like fear about the economy and about the world, right? They're saying now, the next energy that's coming after this, that we're heading into now, is the energy of insolubility. And so I looked that up. And it is the where things are become unsolvable, right? It is a chemistry type term, but it's where things, it says so it's the where the insoluble, where things can no longer come together with something else, so you can't mix things. So in other words, and then they say a dissolving of circumstantial placements. And let's go back to this idea of insolubility. So it's that idea that things before, this could be agreements, this could be any kind of like it could be a place where things that you counted on, that things that before that were a place where you could say, okay, this is held in safety over here. But it could be agreements, contracts, alliances, anything where things where people had terms that they came together on and said, even things like investments where you say, I'm going to give you X dollars and you're going to give me X interest, right? Any of these things that before you put them together and came to agreement, these things start falling apart. And so it could be in all arenas of the world, right? It could be in terms of peace agreements between countries. It could be political understandings of like where we have given power in our governments, right? That those could fall apart. Agreements that we counted on where we thought this is something that is just is, that will always be, or that it is an agreement that we have that we've been able to count on for some time. They become insoluble. They can no longer mix. They no longer come together. So think of it as like the chemistry thing is the idea of two things. I think about like when you're trying to make salad dressing and you mix oil and vinegar, right? And you shake it up and it's like, okay, it works. It's a salad dressing. And then eventually, if you let it sit, it gradually separates. And that's where we are, is that things that we've been able to keep mixed that aren't necessarily the same thing, where two interests seem to have come together in agreement, where there was a truce or an agreement or a contract, and all of a sudden those seem to separate and they can't seem to come together again. And that is the interesting energy about this, is that it seems like everybody might benefit from it coming together, but it can't. That there's the energy of insolubility between things and among things. So this is the next energy. This is what's going on now is foreshadowing this idea of insolubility. So they say a dissolving of circumstantial placements. So circumstantial placements is okay where things have been held in what was thought of as safety. So circumstantial means fully detailed to fix it in time and space. So that is where I say contracts, agreements. So circumstantial placements would be things that are like really drilled down, like let's really get into writing here exactly what we're talking about. Who gets what are we agreeing on? Like how are we mixing? Right? What are the terms of our coming together and those coming apart, right? Circumstantial placements. This to me refers to two different parties that have different interests that have come together, and now those descriptions of how they've come together, those circumstantial placements, fixing it in time and space, dissolve, right? So that's how I read that. Circumstantial placements where things have been held in what was thought of as safety, right? The sign of this now is the great rising of the tide of energy that moves among those in banking. So saying here is where we can look to see this happening. So this is a sign of this starting to evolve. They say there is the folly of suggesting that there will come more fluidity in the form of economic revival. So they're saying that within banking that there is a narrative, and they're saying this, I haven't actually confirmed this, but they're saying there's a narrative that we will grow our way through the upheavals in the economy right now, that we'll be able to grow our way through it. So this may be because of the war, right? War tends to create a lot of more economic movement, right? And so a lot more spending, a lot more money printing, which tends to be like growing your way through things. And so maybe that may be the conversation that's going on in the banking world right now. I don't know. That's what the angels are saying. And they're saying there's the folly of suggesting. So folly indicates this is not true. The folly of suggesting that there will come more fluidity in the form of economic revival. And we say this will not be happening. There will not be the stability as we have been saying. So they're telling us that nope, that idea that it will become more stable because of, money printing or the war engine or whatever it is, they're saying nope, it's not going to work. So I know it's been a lot of dark stuff so far. Just thank you for bearing with me. Here's where we turn. Here's where it starts to get more positive. So here we are. Take a breath. All right. They say, but what now evolves from this pointed collapse is that hardship is more enduring than was expected. And so pointed collapse. So there is, and they talk about this more, that there's an inflection point, pointed collapse. So it's like everything comes together to a point, and then it's like peaks, and then everything starts to fall. So that hardship is more enduring than what is expected. So this seems to be what creates the issue. It's almost like all of the different structures in the world are going like, okay, we can just hold on a little longer, you know what I mean? Then we're going to grow through this. Just keep it together, keep breathing, everybody, hold it together. That seems to be kind of how all the structures in the world are feeling right now. But they're saying that it lasts longer, right? The difficulties extend too long. And it's like there's just not enough resources. It's like that rubber band getting stretched and stretched and stretched. And if it's being asked to hold for too long, it just, after a while, it just can't, and it breaks. So that is what they're saying here, that the hardship is more enduring than was expected. And the tensions and pressures on leadership create strain within the world at large. So this then shows that because it's a strain on leadership, the tensions of the world, that this could unfold into sort of all the areas, political, war, all the things. So that's kind of how it sort of bleeds out. That's why they're saying it starts with this economic stuff, and then it spreads. There is hardship within this endowment of grace. And I love to hear that they're turning it. They're saying, okay, yes, this is hardship. They've been talking about the hardship, but it is an endowment of grace. They say there is struggle amongst yourselves to some degree. Know yourselves in an energy of transition, of change. Have no fear. You will be provided for with what is needed. It will not be the same. It is a momentary shifting that must be endured. So they're saying we just need to get through this part of it, and then things will get better in different ways. They say it's not going to be the way that it was. It's going to be different, but it will be, we're moving into something that is in every way for our highest and best, that it is leading us to something that is our freedom, right? And it really is freedom in so many ways. Freedom from ideas that have not served us in any way, right? Freedom from what some people would really think of as like a reality of enslavement, where people are like, what life is not really a place where we are encouraged or asked to express our full self, right? It's a place where we're asked to fit inside of a box. Which box do you choose? Look at all the choice you have. You get to pick which box, and where we are really tied to our karma, where we're in a structure where challenge is the point, right? Where we are challenged. And that has been a structure of growth, but we're trying to move to a new way of being where we are freed of our karma, where it's about growth in new ways, growth through awareness, through conscious presence. And so it is, and then they're saying that in order to get there, to this new way of unity, of really feeling each other's feelings, of a new way of being in the world, we're oneness with everything, that in order to do that, we have to get through this period. And they're saying it will not be the same. It is a momentary shifting that must be endured. So they go on to say, there is within this placement of hardship multiple causality. So why is this happening? They're saying multiple reasons, all coming together in one inflection point. So again, they're talking about like a point. They're saying that, and that is a turning point, right, where things kind of turn. They say derivative of a greater lengthening difficulty, which overwhelms the institutions and their ability to recover within this structure and framework. So again, they're referring to the fact, they're saying it's a turning point that we get to, and they're saying it is derivative, which is another one of those economic terms that they're putting in here. And derivative means having parts that basically it's derived from. So what does it come from? It is derived from it having parts that come from another source. The source is the greater lengthening of difficulties. This is exactly what they referred to before, that it is enduring more enduring than was expected. The fact that it's taking so darn long, that is what creates the problem, that it goes on for too long. So that is what they're saying here, is saying the greater lengthening difficulty, which overwhelms the institutions and their ability to recover. That's why. They're saying multiple points of causality. So imagine that you're trying to juggle all these different plates, right? And there are all these different areas where things, it's like holes in a ship, where you're trying to plug the holes, and you're like, okay, I can hold this on for a little bit longer, and then it just takes too darn long. And then eventually it gets overwhelmed, and there's a turning point. So that's kind of what they're describing for us. And so then they go on to say, to recover within this structure and framework. So they're saying basically the way things have been, it can't really be, it can't stay. They go on to say, we say, and here's what they're asking us to do through this. This is how we grow through this. This is how we make this work for us. We say, remain pointedly fixated upon your own growth. So this is like, where do we put, again, there's presence. How did they start? Presence, divine presence within you. They're talking to what is divine inside of us, our presence, our awareness. Where do they want us to put it? Remain pointedly fixated on your own growth. Right? This is where we want our conscious awareness, that divine presence, to be pointedly fixated on our own growth. They say the disturbance and dishevelment of this world is an open field, suggestive. So this to me, again, there's so much in this paragraph. The disturbance and dishevelment of this world is an open field, suggestive. So in other words, all of this craziness that's happening, imagine that we've all been held behind a brick wall. You know, our whole existence, like humanity, behind a brick wall of impossibility, of things that we couldn't move, right? Things that was just like, here's all the limitations that you're gonna have to live your whole life behind this wall of limitation. And there's a part of you that just you can only go so far, right? And they're saying that this chaos, that this gradual stretching, and finally where things get overwhelmed and break, it creates an open field, like a chink, like a passageway through that brick wall, where all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, all these limitations we used to know, well, they don't really apply, right? They're falling apart. They don't exist. Now, the things that held us aren't holding us anymore. So what does that mean for us? And they're saying it is an open field. So think of an open field, like brick wall, you go through it, you're in an open field. Like what that means, like, oh my gosh, I could go anywhere. But it also has the double meaning of a field, like an energetic field. And they're saying the word suggestive, an open field, suggestive. So this is what they've been talking about in the last few messages, that the energy is suggestive, that we have the ability to manifest much faster in this new world, in this new reality, this energetic field, right? All these things fall apart. This energy is here, suggestive energy, that what we think, what we feel, you know, as we are using our conscious awareness through the heart, letting our heart lead, feeling our pathway forward. Where does our heart tell us to go? We are creating in this new way, in this suggestive field. So they're saying all of these messages fit together. They're building one upon the next, showing us the way forward, right? And they're giving us more detail here and there, but you see how they all fit together. And they go on to say, and into this space will be drawn the energies of ascending vibration. And so this is about the shift in consciousness. So it's this open field. We find the things that held us in place are falling apart. And yes, that feels scary. Things won't be the same, but they're saying into that, this is the symptom of the fact that the field is opening and becoming suggestive, right? How are we going to create? But it has to come from inside of us. We can't just stay in the grooves that have been laid out for us, that are like, okay, how do I just follow the rules that I've been given and do the things? Like, no, they say, don't do that anymore. They're saying, where do you want to go? What's in your heart? Like, what do you feel? And try your best to try to be in that heart space and navigate from there. And that is the new field that we're going into. And it is suggestive. It's listening. We can play into it. And like we've been talking about, we've all been seeing this happening, right? We've all been seeing how the world is so much more responsive to you, you know, and we talked about this in the last couple of messages, how we've been seeing, like, you think of something, or somebody said something in your world, and then it pops up 3 or 4 times where it's getting repeated themes in a day. You know, and this is the suggestive field, where it's high, like when someone is highly suggestible, it means you can say something, and then they will start to believe it. They'll start to feel it. Like you can, like, think of somebody who's highly suggestible to, like if someone tells you they have a cold, and then automatically you start feeling your throat is sore. Like, that's being suggestive, where it seems like oh my gosh, I got their cold instantaneously because it's just in your mind and it's rattling around and you're thinking about it. And so that's being suggestible, but that's what reality is, right? So if you're starting to think and feel what's happening, that the field picks it up and reflects it back to you. So And Sherry is saying, pointedly fixated on self-growth. Exactly the message that came through a vision while listening to the November peace baiting session early this morning. Oh, don't you love that, Sherry? I love that. Yeah. And it is amazing how, I mean, like when you look at what they're telling us, how these things they're building, they're trying really hard to help us understand some incredibly difficult to understand concepts. And they're doing it one bite at a time, right? And really trying their best to work with us to help us, as they said, feel cared for, right? They're trying so hard to help us understand, yeah, and to help us out of fear. So, okay, so they go on to say, pointedly fixated on your own growth. The disturbance and dishevelment of this world is an open field, suggestive, and into this space will be drawn the energies of ascending vibration, the energies of trust, followership of your own guidance. And I love the way they said that. So this is what we are trying to embody, is we are trying very, very hard to balance in our heart, to balance our masculine and feminine energies, to come into the heart space, to connect to our higher self, to connect to our own truth. This is the goal. So when they say to the followership of your own guidance, that's what they mean, is not following any other guidance, not following the guidance of the church or following the guidance of our political leaders, or following the guidance of even our culture, our society, of the things that we have been told are true, right? The things that whether we've been told this is how you get ahead in life. They said, don't follow that anymore. Follow your heart. What is your truth? Right? And I am I got to tell you guys, like, I live my life. I make a living channeling angels. And there is nowhere in our entire world that anybody says in the rule book that you can do that. As a matter of fact, trying to do this, I cannot tell you how many people said I couldn't do it. There were so many people that said, yeah, you can't make money. You can't support yourself doing that. And how many healers are here with us in our group who have been told that you can't support yourself being a healer, or a channel. You can't do that. And you can, I am, you can do it. And I know, and I'm not the only one, there's lots. I know lots and lots of people who are. And it's that idea that we don't have to stay in these grooves. And I know everybody says, like, there's this thing that went around for a long time of, like, do what you love and then the rest will follow. And it's not quite that easy. Like, I get it. That's a huge oversimplification. It's not that. It's not that easy. But it is. They're saying here the path is to focus pointedly on our own growth. Like, that's the path. And then from the heart space, the world is suggestive. It will flow to you. Like, I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday who has had their whole world has been turned upside down in the last year because their gifting came in and their way of working in the world. And they have started sharing their gifts, and they have a regular job during the day, but they're starting to get clients, and they're finding the flow of clients are coming in, right? And they're doing the work. They're putting themselves out there. They're telling people. They're being open. They're sharing what they do, right? But they're starting to find more and more. Like, it's like they're starting to see this is a pathway. Like, I could actually make a living doing this. I could actually, and they're starting to think ahead about, can I leave the job? Can I do this? Like, this is what's happening. The field is suggestive. Like, they're putting it out there and the field is responding, and people are finding their work. It's amazing. It's amazing to see it happening. Like, yeah, anyways. The trust is the big one. Followship of your own guidance. The energies of trust. This is a big one too. So the two things, like I said, in these paragraphs, they just pack it in. So the energies of trust, they've been talking about this hugely in the last several messages about how one of the biggest things we're going to have to face as we're trying to move into these energies is being willing to be seen. And that is so much bigger than we give it credit for. That it is, and they worked with this on one of our peace bathing sessions. It was some time ago. I can't remember which one it was, where they were trying to bring people into the experience of unity. What is it to be in unity? Sounds beautiful until you actually are there on the precipice of unity and you realize that all of you is going to be seen. Right? The only way to get to unity is to be open, to be totally open, right? And to allow yourself to be completely seen. And it's really hard. It's really hard to do. And we have to get to a feeling of trust, where we trust one another, where we feel so sure of who we are, so connected in our own truth, that we can show up 100% in the fullness of who we are and trust that we are great, trust that we're going to be loved. And that even if we aren't loved, that it's nothing about us, right? It's a reflection of the other person's healing. So it is that sense of we have to get into trust, and we have to get into the followership of our own guidance. They go on to say, a sense of yourselves as elongating into a perspective of your higher truth. So this is elongating. It is the center column, right? It's the connecting up to your higher truth, elongating into a perspective of your higher truth. There will be more reflection. I love this too. There will be more reflection, less reflexive action. Like that one, I need to make sure we make a quote out of that one. There will be more reflection, less reflexive action. So reflection is like, okay, going into the heart again, reflecting into the heart. So it's being attuned to your inner reality, right? And less reflexive action, which is that just following the grooves, doing what we're supposed to do, not thinking about it, right? Just moving through life according to what we were told. So, and within this new economy of faith, you are ready to begin your own shifting and unveiling. So gosh, you guys, like I'm telling you, the new economy of faith, they're saying, don't worry about things unfolding, unraveling, because it's a brand new world, a new economy of faith. Like this is how we move. If we're, it's not about worrying about, what has mattered so much in the past, that what matters now. The new economy is faith. Faith in yourself, faith not only in yourself, but in your guidance, faith in your connection. That's the new economy. That's how we work with the suggestive field, right? You are ready to begin your own shifting and unveiling. So big word there, unveiling, right, is where we start to see past the veil, the unveiling. This paragraph has anyways, it's so exciting. It's so exciting, you guys. Oh my gosh, right? Yeah. So Lindsay is saying, thank you for breaking through to make a living channeling angels. Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay. And you're saying, wow, new economy of faith, right? I know, it's amazing. Yeah, just amazing. So in last paragraph, they say, it is a space and placement which carries hardship, as you know and are aware of. So they're saying, okay, great, now you see the great stuff, but remember, we have to get through this period. And they say it's a moment, right? We have to get through this moment, this transition. It carries hardship. Right, and and they are emphasizing, as you know and are aware of. So they're trying to emphasize here, we're caring for you. You know what's coming. You are aware what's coming. Right, that is how they're caring for us in this process. And then they say, but it holds within it a jewel of composure for yourselves. So what does this mean? A jewel of composure for yourselves. So composure is the calming of the mind and self-possession. So if you think about what that means, calming of the mind means going from the mind to the heart, right? The mind's not racing. You are in the heart. Calming of the mind, moving into the heart. It also means self-possession, which means trusting your guidance, your own connection, trusting yourself, right? Self-possession, you possess yourself, right? It's so awesome. A jewel of composure, right? Moving into your heart and trusting yourself and your higher guidance, composing yourself, having a good jewel of composure, right? A sense of yourselves as understanding why and how this new beginning will avail itself. And we hold for you an inner harmony, a blessing to carry you through these new beginnings. We wish you every prospect of hopeful understanding. So here they're referring to a sense of yourselves as understanding why and how. Right, so it's trying to say they're trying to give us the understanding so we know what we're on a path toward, so we can work with these energies most effectively and hold you in inner harmony. This is what we're trying to achieve, to unify, to heal these woundings, which are, the ways that we have tied ourselves to our various karma. The ways in karma, as I say, karma is not about a judgment made against you. It's a choice. It's a judgment we made against ourselves, or it's a choice. It's anything that we said we were going to experience in this world, right? So but it's self-imposed, and so yeah, so and we hold for you an inner harmony. So it's trying to bring our two parts, our masculine and feminine energy, together into harmony so that we can connect. And then they say a blessing to carry you through these new beginnings. We wish you every prospect. Again, all these kind of like ideas about, they're talking about the economy through this whole thing of hopeful understanding. So the prospect is not riches and gold and all the things. It is hopeful understanding, right? It is a sense of yourself as understanding what's coming and having the hope of the beautiful blessings that are available to us in this new way of being. Wow, right? Like, I love this message, especially like that. Gosh, there's a couple parts in here where I think it's just, they're bringing it in sentence by sentence, referring to the past messages, helping us tie it all together, helping us to grow a deepening and growing our understanding of what we're moving through. And yeah, I find it to be just super exciting. And you're saying, wow, will be willing to be seen is difficult, feels scary. Absolutely. Thank you so much for acknowledging that, because it is. You say, I have taken one step forward and one back, feeling unsure of how to move. I feel a presence rising, doing without worrying about outcome. I'm ready. I love it. And for those of you who feel like the fear of being seen, I will tell you that was huge for me. There was a time when I was, and I told you guys about this, that I remember like when I got my first Facebook account and I did not want to be seen, and so I picked as my my ID, my profile picture, I picked a picture of myself where you could barely even see me, where my kids had taken a picture of me and it was upside down, and so it looked like my head was upside down, and I was wearing a birthday hat, it was like a cone, and so I looked like an ice cream cone. You could see it was like my upside down head and a cone, and I thought it was funny, and I was using humor to deflect away from the fact that I didn't want to be seen, which is like, that's how we do it, right? And so, yeah, and so to get from that place to a place where I really, and then in the beginning, when I started my spiritual path, I was all about promoting everybody else. You know what I mean? I was always trying to push everybody else forward, and I would stay back and not be seen. And that was my comfort space at that time. And so I mention it just because I'm telling you that when I came forward, nothing bad happened. Like the things that we're afraid of, nothing bad happened. I came out, I have now been loud and proud in contexts that you would think, oh, they wouldn't be understanding at all, right? Or they're going to think you're ridiculous. And I have said, very loudly, I channel angels. And I say it now, and people I just meet, I channel angels. And I'm shocked at the response that I get. And so much of it is the energy we embody when we say it. And so if I can come out about that, there is no part of you that does not deserve to be seen. There is no part of you that needs to be secret. You know what I mean? That if I can walk into a room of financial planners and say, I channel angels, and it all works out. I find out later they're watching my videos. Like, how cool is that? So, yeah. So anyways, I'm just saying that just to tell you, like, whatever you feel, if you feel fear about being seen, if you feel like you're scared about losing relationships, losing friendships, I did. Yeah, that's true. I did lose friendships. And yeah, there are family members that are kind of like, yeah, we're just not going to talk about that whole part of your life. And they still love me, but we don't talk about that part of my life. And that's okay. And what happens there is you find new friends. You find people that you can share this part of your life with, or whatever it is that is that part of you, right? That you feel you're afraid to release or afraid to be seen. You find people you can share it with. And then, and then in the friendships or the relationships that aren't comfortable going there, you decide, like, is this a friendship or a relationship that stays, and what is the context, and how does it stay? Like, what are the boundaries of this relationship? Do I feel supported or not? So anyways, I just say it because I think it is such an important part of where we're headed, that allowing ourselves to be seen is a big deal, a much bigger deal than it seems, because we are trying to move to unity, and you cannot be in oneness if you're hiding anything, right? And that is the thing. So we got to get to a place where we really self-love. Like, why the big thing around self-love? Got to be seen. Got to feel like you are really comfortable with who you are. And yeah, so it's a big one. It's a big one. But I'll tell you, like I said, yep, you might lose friends, and that's okay. There are a ton of people in the world, and there are people out there who will love you. Exactly this part of you that you think is not lovable. Somebody out there is going to love it. Yeah. And you're saying, I've taken one step forward and one step back, feeling unsure of how to move. I feel a presence rising, doing without worrying about outcome. I'm ready. I love that. Yes, moving into the heart and getting out of head. Beautiful. Yes. So I caught this one live. Yay, welcome. I'm so glad you could make it. I feel so blessed to be part of this group, moving forward with such great support. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you are part of this group. I really am. Yep, and what feels most joyful. That is what we are headed. Thank you so much for this message. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. Happy day after Thanksgiving. Even if you are not living in the U.S. and you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, it is an awesome time to just focus on gratitude, right? It's just fun. Thanksgiving is a fun holiday about gratitude, and I love that. Have a great day, you guys. Sending you lots of love, and I will see you next Friday live.